Hello, guys, and welcome back. In today's English listening and comprehension lessons, I'm going to be talking about 49 facts about America that most Americans don't even know about. I want to give credit to Alex Palmer, who wrote this article back in January 23rd, 2019. So here's everything the history books wouldn't tell you. Most Americans consider themselves as fairly knowledgeable about their country's history. They could probably tell you that Abe Lincoln was the 16th president, or that Teddy Roosevelt was a proud trust buster, or at the very least, that we've been around since 1776, and the United States has formally been around since 1789. But when you look beyond the preview of some history textbooks, it turns out there's a lot that they don't teach the Americans in class. American history is loaded with odd facts and fascinating tidbits, all of which the average American probably doesn't know. So let's get started. Number one, George Washington wasn't the first president to live in the White House. Nope. It wasn't the first president of the United States who lived in the White House, but John Adams and his wife Abigail. While Washington did oversee the construction of the White House, he never lived in it. It began being built in 1792 and wasn't lived in or inhabited until 1800. Since Adams, each president who has lived in the White House has made their own changes and additions. After all, they lived there. Number two, the deadliest job in the country is being president. Statistically speaking, no job in the United States of America is more deadly than that of the president. Think about it. 45 men have held the title. 4 of those men were assassinated in office. They include Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, James A. Garfield, and William McKinley. While 4 died of natural causes, William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, and Warren Harding, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that's a rate of almost 18%, or nearly 1 out of 5 who died on the job. Would you apply for a job with those kind of statistics? Number 3, Independence Day didn't happen on July 4th. Nope. July 2nd was the day that Congress voted to free us from British rule. However, the 4th of July is when John Hancock wrote the first signature on the Declaration of Independence in order to spread the word of the vote. 56 men signed the document that announced intended independence from British rule. Number 4, there's more than one copy of the original Declaration of Independence. That's right. After the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, the word obviously needed to be spread. The reproduction of this text was overseen by the Committee of Five men: Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston. While hundreds of copies were made of the Declaration of Independence, only 26 survive today. Most can be found in museums and libraries. However, 3 are privately owned. Number 5. Speaking of the Declaration of Independence, 8 of the 56 people that signed the Declaration of Independence were British citizens. 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence from England, 8 of whom were actually British. Sure, the majority of the signers were native-born Americans, but 8 lived far across the Atlantic. 2 were from England, 1 from Wales, 2 from Scotland, 2 from Ireland, and 1 from Northern Ireland. Number 6, the average American throws away 4.4 pounds of trash every day. It sounds crazy, but this is true according to the Environmental Protection Agency's latest 2012 figures. When you take into account America's population, that means that around 1.4 billion pounds of trash gets thrown out in the United States every single day. This makes a nation of some of the most wasteful people on the entire planet. Number 7, in some states, there are more cows than people. That's right. Sorry, we couldn't help ourselves. The cows are here to stay, according to Vox. Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Wyoming have less humans than they do cows. In these states combined, there are 32,489,391 cows. Take a little here or there. That's more than 1/3 of America's total cow population. Number 8, the tallest president was Abraham Lincoln. That's right, the 16th president was a tall 6 feet 4 inches, or 193 centimeters. Our smallest president to hold office was James Madison, the 4th president, whose term was served from 1809 to 1817. He stood 5 feet 4 inches tall, or 163 centimeters. He also weighed less than 100 pounds. Number 9, the oldest president to serve was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, the former Hollywood star and governor of California, and our 40th president, took office at 69 years old and served 2 full 4-year terms from 1981 to 1989, stepping down just a few weeks shy of his 78th birthday. Though since our current president is 70, he could potentially beat out the great communicator. Number 10, the Statue of Liberty isn't in New York. That's right. The Statue of Liberty, which adorns pretty much every bit of tourist memorabilia you can purchase in the Big Apple, is actually not located in New York City at all. It's technically in New Jersey. Jersey City, New Jersey. Who knew? The copper statue was a gift from France to the United States in October 1886. Number 11, Americans eat about 100 acres of pizza every day. Wow. We love our pie enough that we collectively consume 100 acres of pizza every single day. Annually, around 300 billion pizzas are sold in the good old USA. Not only that, but a reported 93% of Americans have eaten pizza within the past month. The biggest spike in delivery sales of pizza occurs around the Super Bowl. Can't get more American than that. Number 12, Atlantic City, New Jersey has the world's longest boardwalk. Atlantic City has the world's longest boardwalk, but it was built in 1870. It was also the first boardwalk in the United States. Its purpose was to limit the amount of sand beachgoers took with them into the hotel lobbies as well as onto the trains. Today, the boardwalk is a stretch of 4.5 miles long and home to casinos, hotels, restaurants, and more. Number 13, California's state animal doesn't exist in California. Before the mid-1800s, thousands of grizzly bears could be found across California, so much that the animal became the state's official animal. Nowadays, all of the grizzly bears are gone from California. What changed then, you say? In the mid-1800s, if you guessed the state's gold rush, you are right on the money. Between then and 1922, every living grizzly bear in the state of California was captured or killed. And all it got was a lousy flag. Who knew? Number 14, the original capital of the United States was Philadelphia, not Washington, D.C. The country's capital wasn't always in Washington, D.C. As stipulated by the Residence Act, Philadelphia was made to be the temporary capital of the newly created United States of America between 1790 and 1800, while Washington, D.C. was being built. Today, you can still find many famous pieces of early U.S. history through the city of Philadelphia. Number 15, Harvard was the first university in the United States. The school was founded in 1636 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right across the Charles River from Boston, Ohio. And speaking of, here are 21 things that are harder than getting into Harvard. Number 16, the United States debt per person is $54,000. Ouch. Here are, here are some more probably related stats. Approximately 48% of all Americans are currently either considered to be low income or are living in poverty. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimates that 167,000 Americans have more than $200,000 in student loan debt. The unemployment rate is currently 4%, according to the most recent figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Number 17, did you know that Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame? That's right, the 16th President of the United States is actually in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Before he took on the top job in the nation, Honest Abe Lincoln was the winner of 299 out of his 300 fought wrestling matches, as the Wrestling Hall of Fame was only able to account for one loss out of all the matches he fought. Who knew? Number 18, Lincoln created the Secret Service the day of his assassination. The president, who was assassinated on April 14, 1865, has signed legislation to create the U.S. Secret Service hours before he headed to the Ford's Theater. However, the Secret Service wouldn't have saved Lincoln had it been created in time. The original purpose was to combat widespread currency counterfeiting. It wasn't until 1901 that its mission was to protect the president. Who knew? Number 19, Paul Revere never actually shouted the words, "The British are coming." While everyone knows the story of Revere's famous ride, in which he was said to have warned colonial militia of their approaching enemy by yelling, "The British are coming," there are plenty of holes in the story. According to history.com, the operation was meant to be quiet and stealth, since British troops were hiding out in the Massachusetts countryside. Also, colonial Americans still considered themselves to be British. To be yelling about an impending invasion would be anything but stealthy. Number 20, the U.S. government poisoned people doing prohibition. You've likely heard about how crazy some of the law enforcement and prohibition laws could be, but it turns out the U.S. government literally poisoned alcohol in its effort to discourage drinking. When people continued to consume alcohol despite its banning, law officials got frustrated and decided to try a different kind of deterrent: death. They ordered the poisoning of industrial alcohols manufactured in the U.S., which were products regularly stolen by bootleggers. By the end of the Prohibition period in 1933, the federal poisoning program is estimated to have killed at least 10,000 people. Wow, who knew? Number 21, the first face of the $1 US bill wasn't Washington. Nope, the first person to appear on the $1 bill, the most common bill, was Solomon P. Chase. The first $1 bill was issued during the Civil War in 1862. At that time, Chase was the Secretary of Treasury and was also the designer of the country's first bank notes. Number 22, Uncle Sam was a real person. That's right. His name was Samuel Wilson, a meat packer in Troy, New York, who fought in the American Revolution. He later became the official meat inspector for the Northern Army in the War of 1812. Wilson was given the nickname Uncle Sam for his good nature. According to HuffPost newspaper, when he started providing and inspecting meat for the troops during the War of 1812, the soldiers from Troy would joke that the initials U.S. label on the barrels actually stood for Uncle Sam. This idea was eventually expanded to all U.S. military items with U.S., and that's how Uncle Sam came to be. Number 23. Did you know the Mall of America is owned by Canadians? The Mall of America is located in Bloomington, Minnesota, and is actually owned by 555 Group, a company based in Edmonton, Canada. This Canadian company also came up with the idea of the mall and designed it. So really, despite its name, the Mall of America, it's not so American after all. How's that for a surprise? Number 24, Ohio wasn't formally a state until 1953. Talk about a snub. It wasn't until 1953 that Ohio Congressman George H. Bender brought a bill to the U.S. Congress asking them to retroactively admit his state of Ohio into the United States of America. That's why, despite the bill being passed in the 50s, Ohio's official founding date is 1803. Who knew? So what happened? This is what happened. Thomas Jefferson had approved the territory that would become Ohio more than a century before. However, due to an accidental oversight, Ohio had never been formally admitted. Oops. Number 25. Did you know you don't need a driver's license to compete in the NASCAR racing? Wow. Technically, a state's driver's license is not needed to compete in NASCAR. Even drivers who have had their actual driver's license suspended for everything from reckless driving to DUIs, they're still able to race in NASCAR. Wow. Number 26. Russia sold Alaska to the United States for pennies. Well, not actually pennies, but let's look at it. Alaska is the largest state in the United States and was sold for a total of $7.2 million, which amounts to about 2 cents per acre. The state was purchased in 1867 from Russia. In the 50 years since then, America has made their money back for the $7.2 million more than 100 times over. Talk about a quality buy. Number 27. Most Americans spend less than 5 years at each job. Why? It's because American employees are likely to leave their jobs for other companies in search of better benefits and higher salaries. Americans would rather get back on the market than stick it out for the long haul and hope for the best. In fact, per BLS figures, the typical baby boomer has held 10 jobs between the ages of 18 and 42. Number 28. More people live in New York City than in most other states in the United States. Talk about one big apple. New York City is home to 8.5 million people, more than 40 out of 50 of the states in America. This figure is especially crazy considering how New York City is geographically tiny. New York City is just over 300 square miles. Wow. Number 29. The word Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, is misspelled on the Liberty Bell. Too bad spell check didn't exist 300 years ago. Hey, we're just kidding. Because of the spelling used was actually an accepted form at the time the bell was engraved. Here are a few other facts. The strike note of the bell is in E flat, and it weighs a whopping 2,080 pounds. Number 30. Lake Superior could cover all land in the Western Hemisphere. Lake Superior is the world's largest freshwater lake by surface area at 31,700 square miles, or 82,100 square kilometers, or roughly the size of Maine. It also holds 10% of the world's surface fresh water. Its 3 quadrillion gallons are enough to cover both North and South America under 1 foot of water. Number 31. Oregon is the fastest speaking state. That's right. Most people in the Beaver State speak 6 words in the time it takes the rest of the country to say 5 words. After studying over 4 million phone calls, Marchex found that Oregon, as well as upper Midwest states and Massachusetts, have the quickest speech patterns. The slowest talkers are from Louisiana, Alabama, and the Carolinas. Oh, and New Yorkers talk the most. Number 32. Only 2 states don't practice daylight saving time. Though legislatures in some states have tried and failed to pass laws to get rid of daylight savings time, all 48 continuous states practice the measure. But if you hate resetting your clock twice a year, may we suggest moving to Hawaii or Arizona. Neither state does it. Number 33. Boston is the home to the country's worst drivers. According to Allstate, which is an insurance company, according to Allstate's Best Driver Report in 2017, which takes a look at the nation's 200 largest cities, Boston took the not coveted first place in being the nation's home to the worst drivers. The best drivers can be found in Kansas City, Missouri. Number 34. The entire state building literally has its own zip code. It happened in 1980, and the zip code is 10188. The building was declared a landmark on May 18, 1981, by New York City's Landmarks Preservation Commission. And in 1982, the Empire State Building was listed on the State and National Register of Historic Places. Number 35. If Texas were its own country, it would be very, very wealthy. Everything is big and bigger in Texas. The Lone Star State would have has the world's 10th largest GDP if it were its own country. Gross domestic product. That's what GDP means. America's largest state economy, though, would be California, which produced a slightly higher GDP than the whole of France in 2015. Number 36. The happiest state in the country is Utah. On the personal finance site Wallet Hub, experts analyzed the 50 states and Washington, D.C. The used 28 key metrics: happiness, including emotional health, income level, social connectivity, and sports participation rates. Utah came in first, followed by Minnesota, Alabama, and West Virginia, ranked as the unhappiest states in the country. Number 37. There's a town in Alaska that lives under one roof. Can you believe it? The town of Whittier, Alaska, is an hour southeast of Anchorage, Alaska. It's a small town of around 220 people. And these 220 people all live under one roof in one building. For those who have privacy issues, this is probably not the town for you. Number 38. Did you know most of the United States $100 bills are not in the United States? According to the Washington Post, $100 bills are one of America's leading exports. An estimated 2/3 of the $100 bills can actually be found overseas. Why? Well, many are definitely used for black market purchases and other illegal deeds, but many are held on to as savings in nations like Cyprus and Greece. Number 39. In Kentucky, there are more bourbon barrels than people. That's right. In Kentucky, the number of bourbon barrels outnumber the state's population by more than 2 million. That's a lot of bourbon. Kentucky is the birthplace of the drink and crafts 95% of the world's bourbon supply. Number 40. Bourbon is America's only native spirit. Bourbon is the only native spirit of the United States of America, which was declared by Congress in 1964. In order for an alcohol to be considered bourbon, it must be made with a minimum of 51% corn, aged in charred new oak barrels, stored at no more than 125 proof, and bottled no less than 80% proof. Number 41. Did you know there is an actual town in the United States with just one person living in it? Manawi, Nebraska's single resident, is 83 years old. She is the city's mayor, librarian, and bartender. Her name is Elsie Eller. She pays taxes to herself and considers people who reside 40 miles away to be her neighbors. Number 42. One Pennsylvania town has been on fire for decades. Wow. The town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, has been on fire for more than 55 years. In the late 1800s to the 1960s, it was a prosperous mining town. However, after a mine caught fire in 1962, the flames began to spread underground through the interconnecting tunnels. They haven't been able to put them out since, and the town's population, of course, has drastically decreased. Don't move to Centralia, Pennsylvania, guys. Number 43. The Library of Congress has hundreds of miles of bookshelves. Did you know that? Talk about a way deeper collection than your local library. 838 miles of bookshelves consisting of more than 39 million books. The Library of Congress receives some 15,000 items each working day. Altogether, these bookshelves are long enough to stretch from Houston, Texas to Chicago, Illinois. Number 44. Atlanta has dozens of streets with some variations of the word peach tree. Despite there not being many, if any at all, literally peach trees in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, more than 70 streets in the city contain the word peach tree in their names. A few examples: Peachtree Center Avenue, Peachtree Battle Avenue, Peachtree Dunwoody Road, Peachtree Circle, and of course, Peachtree Street, just to name a few. Number 45. There's an Oregon lake that is frightening deep. Crater Lake is 1,943 feet deep, which makes it the deepest lake in the United States, as well as the 9th deepest lake in the entire world. There's only one place that's safe to swim in this lake, and that's only open in mid to late June. Number 46. Kansas would single-handedly feed the world for 2 weeks. Wow. According to the National Association of Wheat Growers, an acre of Kansas wheat produces enough bread to feed nearly 9,000 people for one day. As well, the state produces enough wheat each year to bake 36 billion loaves of bread. That's enough to feed everyone in the world for about 2 weeks. And the world grows hungry. Number 47. There's enough concrete in the Hoover Dam to span the whole nation of the United States. There's enough concrete in the Hoover Dam to build 2-lane highway from San Francisco to New York, 3.25 million cubic yards to be exact. It also weighs more than 600,000 tons. Number 48. In Alabama, unclaimed baggage or unclaimed luggage from airlines gets sold. In Scottsboro, Alabama, the Unclaimed Baggage Center attracts some 800,000 shoppers every year to go through people's lost stuff and purchase unclaimed items. Kind of weird, but it works. Workers unpack an average of 7,000 items per day. What isn't suitable for retail is donated or thrown out. Number 49. Now this will get you. You can get a unicorn hunting license in Michigan. I guess there are people that still believe in fairy tales, huh? We're not joking. You can obtain a unicorn hunting license from Michigan, Lake Superior State University. The unicorn hunters were created in 1791 by W.T. Rabb, who was known for his clever PR stunts from his time as a Detroit area publicist. And number 50, Western Michigan has a lavender field you can see from space. The lavender field is located in western Michigan at Cherry Point Farm and Market in Shelby. It was designed in 2001 by Cherry Point owner Barbara Bull and artist and architect Conrad Heiderer, Heiderer, to include an herb garden. To walk to the center of the lavender field would take you around an hour to get there. Oh, and you can see this lavender field from Google Earth. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this